Sarah the Vegan Hooper here. Today I will be explaining the ANTISPIN ISO flower as well as getting into a butterfly. And I'll try to explain how to get back into it. So if you have a set of twins and you're having a beautiful day, with no further ado, let's jump right in. So for the ISO flower, one hoop is resting on your wrist while the other one is up up standing tall in your hand, okay? And if you notice when you do the ISO flower, you can hear the hoops clanking together. You have to keep the petals the same the whole time or it won't be an ISO flower. The pattern won't be correct. But with the ANTISPIN ISO flower, it's a little different. There's not an exact set petal formation, so it's not like 1, 1, 1, and 1 equals 4 petals. That's the ANTISPIN. You can do whatever you want, and it'll be the ANTISPIN ISO flower. So prerequisites to get into the ANTISPIN ISO flower doesn't even have to be a regular ISO flower. It just has to be a isolation both ways. So you have to know how to do a clean isolation the other way around, okay? So for a regular ISO flower, for the ANTISPIN ISO flower, okay? If you do not know how to do an ISO flower, then I'm going to show you first how to get into the ANTISPIN version of it. Place the hoop in the middle of your arm, ideally, okay? Sometimes it gets in the crease of your elbow and it's hard to get back into the ISO flower, even though you can if you work hard at it and practice, okay? So ideally you want the hoop in the middle of your elbow and your wrist, okay? And you're gonna give the hoop a spin up, okay? And you're gonna start pumping your arm up and down to keep it going. And then you're going to start spinning the hoop that is in your hand in the opposite direction, okay? Like that. If you know how to do an ISO flower, then what we're gonna do is we're going to do a ISO flower. We're gonna stop our hoop at 6 o'clock and we're going to shimmy by shaking our hoop up, shimmy the hoop, or pumping our arm up and down. We're gonna shimmy the hoop to the middle of our arm, and when it's in the ideal spot, and you'll know when it's there, it'll just feel like it won't clank, okay? Because if you immediately go from the ISO flower to the ANTISPIN ISO flower, it'll clank. That's why you need to find the ideal spot by shimmying the hoop up while you're at 6 o'clock, and when it's in the ideal spot, then you'll start isolating in the opposite direction. So this is what it looks like, okay? I'm gonna stop at 6 o'clock, I'm gonna shimmy the hoop up my arm, and then I'm going to start isolating in the opposite direction, okay? So, when I said with the ISO flower, you could hear it clanking, this is the petals, okay? The black hoop is making the petals. But with the ANTISPIN ISO flower, it's just spinning on your arm and you're isolating the white hoop or the hoop that's in your hand. So there's no 1, 2, 3, 4. See, it's just doing its own thing, okay? So you could stop and do the bottom of the hoop, okay? Or you can do pretty tricks with the hoop that's in your hand, okay? Or you can start isolating back in the same direction as your ISO flower and go really quick with your arm that has the petal hoop on it, and eventually it'll shimmy its way back down to your wrist and you could go back into a regular ISO flower. Okay, so now we're gonna discuss the butterfly. The hoop that's spinning on your arm, okay? Whatever way that hoop is spinning, so I spin it, let's say it's going clockwise, your hand hoop is going to go counterclockwise. It's going to go the opposite way, okay? So to practice this, if you do not know how to do an iso flower or an anti-spin iso flower yet, is put your hoop that is going to be on your arm in the ideal spot, ideally the middle of your arm. Swing it up. Don't forget to push your arm up and down to keep it going, and spin the hoop that is in your hand the opposite direction and pulsate your arm up and down to keep this butterfly effect going. Eventually you could go all over the place, okay? Grab the hoop and either go into your anti-spin iso flower or the iso flower. See, because if you have your hoop up here on your arm and you're doing an anti-spin iso flower and you stop and go back into the isolation the correct way that you were doing with the iso flower, what it's doing is just making extra petals until you could shimmy the hoop down to your wrist again and go back into a normal iso flower where one hoop is at an extension. My white hoop is doing an extension and the other hoop is doing a isolation, and they're working together, okay? And by the way, if you do not know how to do an iso flower, all you have to worry about here is your isolation. The extension will do it on its own because it's resting on your wrist or your knuckles. That's usually where my hoop is on my knuckles like this, and they're clanking together to do an iso flower, okay? So if you do know how to do an iso flower and you want to get into the butterfly, stop at 6 o'clock, shimmy the hoop. See how it's going crooked again? Stop at 6 o'clock, shimmy the hoop up your arm to the ideal place. You can either do the anti-spin iso flower or immediately start spinning the hoop in your hand in the opposite way of what the hoop on your arm is doing, pulsating your arm slightly up and down to keep this butterfly effect going. Eventually you could get into tosses and all that jazz, which I need to practice again. I totally lost it. So basically what I want to say is, if you do not know how to do a regular iso flower and you want to learn how to do this, because maybe this will help you learn an iso flower or the butterfly will help you learn the anti-spin iso flower, okay? Put one hoop on your ideal spot, middle of the arm, give it a spin up, okay, so it's swinging to the left, and then start isolating your hoop in the opposite direction, or spin it the opposite way to the right of what the other hoop is doing. This is what the butterfly is. Grab the hoop, start spinning back to the normal if you want, until the hoop slides onto the other hoop, making the regular iso flower. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment box. I want to give props where props are due. This move was invented by CATERINA SUTTIN, the queen of doubles. So if you do not know who she is, then go check that woman out, man. She doesn't really make videos anymore, but she's still on top of the game. Like her mind, if I could get inside her mind. So anyways, go check out my sponsors on Etsy, Festival Treasures, or on Instagram. Use my code VeganHooper to get 10% off your purchase. And yeah, check me out on Instagram, Miss Maynard Keenan. I'd love to see you there. And if you want to learn anything, feel free to ask. Love you guys. Mwah.